Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back. Happy Friday. In this video, we're looking at the 14-game baseball slate that we have on tap for tonight. So let's not waste too much time. But first, a couple of housekeeping things. I always appreciate if you guys hit the like button. It helps the channel out, helps the channel reach more people. So don't mind doing that. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. You can follow me on Twitter at the DFS Process for updates. It was a good day for baseball yesterday, made up for NBA not going good. Hopefully, we can get both sports in the money today and start off this weekend right. So let's get right into it. Looking at the lineups here. First game, we have Oakland and Baltimore. Oakland is one of my favorite teams to stack today because they get a huge ballpark upgrade. The weather is nice there, 61 degrees, wind blowing out a little bit. Lopez is not a good pitcher. He's given up 5 home runs already in just 13 innings. He does have some strikeout upside, but I love a lot of these A's hitters. They have a lot of guys that hit for power, like Matt Olson. You have some cheap guys in this lineup that with power, like Mitch Moreland, Piscotty at the bottom of the order, and then Jed Lowry's been hitting the ball very well. Canna, leadoff hitter, $4,300. Probably will get 5 at-bats tonight if all things go well. He looks very appealing, so have to start with Oakland as a top stack. And then other stacks that look appealing. Well, for pitching-wise, I love DeGrom. He's my favorite pitcher. The Nats have a 2.5 total. He's at home. It's a good ballpark to pitch in. He's been unstoppable so far, even though he never gets the run support for some reason. He's still been cruising along. So far this year, he has a .45 ERA, and he even has a loss to his name, which is sad. And that loss, I think he gave up just one earned run and ended up losing. But DeGrom, it's going up against Washington. He goes deep into games. He's thrown 95 and 99 after getting pulled early in the start against Philly on opening day. Expect him to maybe get you close to 100 pitches again, maybe over 100. So go ahead and plug him in as my SP1. Other guys that look in play as your SP1s are Tyler Glasnow. He has a tougher matchup against Toronto's offense, but he also gets a great ballpark to pitch in. He also has a lot of strikeout upside. So I'd rank it DeGrom, Glasnow, Kershaw, and then Darvish. Kershaw, Darvish, both guys have tough matchups here, so I don't think you need to go to any of those guys when you have DeGrom and Glasnow in better spots. And then in 9K range, you have Sonny Gray, who could be a contrarian option because we know he does get a lot of strikeouts, especially against right-handed heavy teams, and he definitely is facing one in St. Louis. But besides the A's, you could look to some Boston Red Sox. JD Martinez has been hitting the cover off the ball this year. Xander Bogaerts, Hernandez at the top of the order. They are expensive, so I do prefer Oakland compared to the Baltimore bats today because, 6K, 56. It's going to be tough to fill out a stack with all of those core hitters. I think the Royals are somewhat interesting against Casey Mize, a young pitcher he did upgrade his, there's a report that his fastball went up by a couple of ticks. He's almost at 95.5 miles per hour. He was a number 1 overall pick, so he does have some long-term hopes for them to be very good. I think you can still look at a couple of these guys because Soler is cheap. He hit a home run, I think, yesterday or the day before. Dozier is cheap. He also hit a home run the last game. And you can even go up for like a Santana or a Whit Merrifield. So cheap stack is the Royals. You can stack like 4 through 7 or even 4 through 8. And then the Braves always going to be an appealing stack when they're at home against like a poor pitcher. Weaver does have talent, but he's never been able to figure it out. It's been a struggle for him to kind of get things going. See how he's been this year so far. He's been all right. 3.78 ERA looks pretty good on the surface. The home runs are a little bit concerning. Most of them did come in Coors, but he did pitch well against Cincinnati, and he pitched poorly against Washington. You never know what you're going to get out of him. On a big slate, you always want to target some of the better offenses and teams that can explode, and we know this Braves offense definitely has the ability to explode, so they are going to be a stack that you can look to, but they're behind a couple of teams. Other stacks that I like, and then we can talk about Coors. Normally, I think there's merit to fading Coors on a big slate, but looking at these price tags, they didn't really adjust them for Coors Field. You got McCutchen batting leadoff, $3,900. On the other side, you got Tapia batting leadoff at $3,000. You have Crone, $3,900, hitting fifth. You have a cheap Garrett Hampson with a lot of speed, $3,700. You have even a cheap Fuentes. Charlie Blackmon is only $45. He's been cold to start, but that price tag is very cheap for a hitter that is extremely good in Coors Field for his entire ever since he started playing there. He hits for such a high average at home. He hits for so many bombs. It's going to turn around very soon. And then on the Philly side, besides McCutchen, you have Alec Boehm at only 35. You have Brad Miller, Mickey Moniak as very cheap guys that anybody can hit a home run in Coors pretty much. So they are going to be a game that I would stack up today a little bit. And then the last game is, or last couple games is where you can look to some pitchers. As your SP2, you can go to Alcantara or Alex Wood. I like Alex Wood a little bit more, half a run total less for the Marlins, and you think he gives you a lot of upside. In his first start, he still managed to put up 20 DraftKings points, even though he only threw 60-plus pitches. That was against the same Marlins team. He's only $7,100. He's a talented pitcher. Just dealing with some injuries in his career, but he still has upside. And this one, he could get pushed up to like 80, maybe 85 pitches if all things go well. And he's a ground ball pitcher, as he showed against the Marlins, so it's a great park for him to have success over the entire career. So I think DeGrom Alex Wood pairing is where I'm looking at. It still leaves me with $4,000, which is exactly how much I want to have for my bats. And then looking at plate IQ for a little bit, if you want to look at the Rockies game here, Velasquez does have strikeout upside, but he gives up power. He gives up a lot of walks, and he hasn't really. This is his first game he's starting this year after pitching in the bullpen, so who knows how deep he'll go. He could go a couple innings and then give way to the bullpen. But whenever he is out there, he throws his fastball a lot, 67% to lefties, almost 60% to righties, and you see a lot of good hitters against that pitch. You have Crone, 253 ISO, Blackman, 276, Story, 255. And then even Nunez as a catcher option. So I think the Rockies look very appealing as a stack. Then we can look to the Oakland A's side against Lopez. Pull that up. So for the xFIP for Lopez, it is not the best, 4.79, under a 20% K rate. And then he gives up a lot of power, especially to lefties. 259 ISO given up to left-handed bats. Throws a lot of different pitches, about 3 primary pitches: fastball, sinker, curve, fastball. Got a lot of guys that hit that pitch well. On the A's, most of the lineup is plus 200 ISO. Look at the changeup or the curveball. You have Matt Chapman hits that pitch well. Murphy, the catcher. Olsen hits that pitch well. And then this sinker, 377 for Marcana, 351 for Chapman, 649 for Moreland. Do love the A's stack today as well. So for me, the main stacks are the A's and then the Coors game. You can mix it up with some Red Sox bats. You can mix it in some Royals bats. But for the most part, I'm going to be focusing on those 3 teams to get my hitters. Looking at first base, can go to Mitch Moreland, who's very cheap here. It's only $3,500 or $3,600. Actually, he's only $3,100, so he looks very appealing if you wanted to save some money from Matt Olson, who is a lot more expensive, but for good reason. He's $5K. Or you can target some of these Coors bats here with Hoskins and Crone, who's affordable. Crone checking in at 39 against Velasquez. I'm going to go ahead and put him in for now. At second base, the main guys I'm kind of looking at are probably spend down a little bit at this position here. You can spend down a little bit, or if you wanted to pay up, I'm looking at Jed Lowry, $4,800, maybe a McMahon or a Merrifield at the top end. Do have some guys you can look to at the bottom of the order here, like Chisenholm. It's not a matchup I want to go lefty-lefty, but he gives you a one-off play if you're not going to be playing Alex Wood as a guy with a lot of upside who's very cheap. Hampson as a cheap hitter against Velasquez. Velasquez walks a lot of guys, so he can get on base there. You can look to Nico Goodrum. Maybe he's starting to turn it around. He's been hitting the ball a little bit better recently, and he's only $3,600 against a lefty. You have Jonathan India. He's been great for the Reds this year. Had a home run yesterday, like half the team did last night or last afternoon. And then even like Scope is a viable option. And then Adrianza, if he starts batting leadoff at $3,100. Third base, at the top end, you can go up for don't want to go Devers lefty-lefty. I'll probably go McMahon is my favorite pay-up option. Then it would be Ramirez, even though Montgomery's a good pitcher. And then Chapman, $4,800. Think he looks very good as part of your Oakland stacks. If you wanted to save money, you can go down to a Alec Boehm in Coors, only $3,500. A young kid with a lot of potential. Showed really good stuff last year. It's been a bit slow to start, but he's still been hitting a couple home runs this year. He has some pop as a 344 slugging. Definitely will improve. Has struck out a lot so far, 20 strikeouts and 64 at-bats. But those numbers were very high early on. Has come down a little bit recently. and he's just too cheap, $3,500. I do like Marquez as a pitcher, but Marquez has struggled in Coors over his career, and don't think that much will change this year. So far, he was pretty good in his starts at home, but looking at his career numbers, he was giving up some high runs and some bombs in Coors. So if anybody can get to him, hopefully it would be Alec Boehm at only $3,500. And then in the outfield, could go with Mark Canha, who is $4,300, just as leadoff hitter against a pitcher and Lopez, who gives up pop. Canha has a lot of power. He'll probably get you 5 at-bats today, and that's a great sign for a hitter that's been doing great things so far. For the A's at the top of the order, he also has some speed with 4 stolen bases. You normally wouldn't expect him to be a fast runner or a guy that will steal a lot, but the A's are aggressive on the base paths. They will take chances, so that's always great to stack up teams that will steal bases like the Royals and the A's. And then the last guy is going to be Tapia, just because he's only $3,800, or he's only $3,000. Batting leadoff against Velasquez, who has struggled against lefties. He's a guy with some pop, also with some speed. Has just 1 stolen base on the season, but he's known to have some speed. Hopefully he kind of takes more chances on the base path. Some teams just don't let their guys run that much, but $3,000 for a leadoff hitter in Coors at home is just a great spot to go to Tapia. And he's still left with $4,325, so still plenty to fill out the rest of the lineup with some studs. So these are the main guys I'm kind of looking at. Some of the value pieces I like: Cron, Boehm, Tapia, all below 4K, and the Canha as a very good leadoff hitter batting against Lopez. So that's it for DK. Let's look at FanDuel. All right, on this FanDuel side, you have DeGrom sitting at 12.5. He's the most expensive pitcher by a mile. Next guy is Tyler Glasnow at 11.2. Could save some money and go to Glasnow if you wanted to. I still like DeGrom a little bit more. Or you can go down to a cheap pitcher if you wanted to save even more money and spend up for a lot of your bats, which you definitely can do, but there's always cheap hitters that fit kind of nicely on FanDuel to pay up for a bit at pitcher. But Alex Wood would be that candidate at $7,700. He probably tops off with like 40, 45 point upside, whereas DeGrom can go for like 60. So you have to hope that your other hitters kind of step up. You can go to Yanoa as a cheap pitcher if you wanted to. I'm just going to stick with DeGrom because there are some cheap hitters that make sense that have a lot of pop. Starting off, one guy is Moreland, only $2,300. Should bet right in the middle of the lineup against a righty for the A's here against Jorge Lopez. I think he looks very good. He has pop against righties, and Lopez gives up power, so perfect combination for hopefully Mitch Moreland to take one deep today. Second base, looking at Jed Lowry, $3,400. You can go cheaper maybe, like for a Kike Hernandez batting leadoff. Albies, $2,900, also is in play. And then those are the main guys. And then if you needed to punt here, if any of these guys, like a Goodrum looks fine. Maybe Jimenez batting leadoff if you wanted to go with a cheap hitter. But my favorite is probably the guys in the Phillies game and the A's side, and that would be Jed Lowry or Ryan McMahon. Third base, you have a couple guys at 4K. You can save a little bit of money and go down to a Alec Boehm, who's only $3,100, or you can go to a Matt Chapman, who's $3,100. Both guys same price tag. I'm going to lean to Matt Chapman, just have a better history of him in his career, of how good of a hitter he is. He's hitting for a low average, but he's not a strikeout guy. He's not a guy that strikes out a crazy amount. He should be able to start making more contact and get a bit more lucky. And it's just such a good ballpark for them to hit in compared to what they're used to. So usually, hopefully, they can kind of capitalize on this opportunity and put up a lot of runs today, because they are in a great spot to do that. Shortstop, Story, $4,100. He looks great. You can save some money, and maybe if Didi Gregorius is in the lineup, he's $3,300. He also looks appealing. And then you can go down to like a Goodrum here. Jimenez maybe, Swanson maybe, or you have like Andrews, $2,100 as a contrarian play. If you wanted to stack up the A side and get to a low-owned hitter, would be Andrews at $2,100. In the outfield, you have some expensive hitters here. Looking at this, kind of the same games I'm looking to, is Tapia still. It's more expensive on FanDuel, but he's still at a good price tag, $3,300 batting leadoff. He looks appealing, guy with a little bit of speed, with a little bit of pop as well, especially in Coors. And then the last guy is a guy that just returned a few days ago. He's too cheap right now because his price tag hasn't caught up to him. But that's Kyle Lewis on the Mariners side. He's facing off against a lefty. He has a ton of potential. Burst onto the scenes last year with 17 home runs, I believe. Won the Rookie of the Year in the American League. He has so much upside, and for him to only be $2,400 against Martin Perez in a good ballpark to hit in, I think that makes a sense for me to target him, especially if he's not going to get ownership. He's a great one-off play on the Mariners lineup. So that's it on FanDuel. It's the A's, it's the Rockies, the Phillies. A couple of cheap one-offs always make sense if you wanted to pay up for DeGrom, who is expensive and is going to cost you a pretty penny. But that's it for the baseball side. I'll be working on the NBA video right now, so stay tuned for that coming up. But thank you guys for watching. Best of luck tonight, and I'll see you all next time.